Hey y'all, welcome back to New Slang. I am music journalist Thomas Mooney, and on this episode, I'm joined by David Beck of David Beck's Tejano Weekend. So yeah, it's been a minute since the last episode. I've been a little busy as of late, but I do have a handful of really great episodes that I need to get out to y'all. So we're kicking things off again with an old buddy, the aforementioned David Beck, who just released David Beck's Tejano Weekend Volume 2 just about a month ago. We talk about the blending of Tejano music and American singer-songwriter, collaborating with legends of the genre, how and why he started diving into Tejano music, and what he has to add to the genre at large. If you haven't listened to David Beck's Tejano Weekend just yet, I do highly encourage y'all to check out all the work that they've done. There's Volume 1 and Volume 2. They're stellar records. And then there's a couple of 2-song EPs that are very worthy of your time as well. So since the last episode, I've released The Lubbock Way, my debut book about a small slice of Lubbock's music history. I've been really blown away by the support so far. This first edition of the book, there are only 806 copies, which of course is an homage to the Panhandle area code. As of now, I've sold just north of 500 of them, so what that means is if you want a copy, you ought to order one pretty soon. I'll throw a link in the show notes to the New Slang merch store where you can order one. It's also where you can get Bust the Hub t-shirts or the New Slang Panhandle music shirts, koozies, stickers, coffee mugs, and a bunch of other things that you would expect in a merch store. Okay, I'll keep this really short and sweet and just tell you to subscribe to New Slang wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends, your family, your coworkers, anyone that you think that would enjoy New Slang to go ahead and check out New Slang. Links to Twitter, Facebook, and the Instagram, they are also in the show notes. All right, let's get into it. Here is David Beck. Yeah, for you though, like what? I've already hit record by the way, but like,
cool.
Like I guess like with a lot of artists and musicians, having time is kind of like the key to being able to sit down to write or create or whatever the case is. It's always about time, right? Having time.
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily like, hey, here's this huge indefinite block of time. You don't know when it's going to end, when we're done with it is like the most creative, the best way to create, in the middle of a pandemic, but everyone was allotted that time. What did you kind of do with yours? Like, did it feel right to write and create, or did you have to, was it just surreal? Like, I felt like it was for me.
No, I thought it was a really wonderful time to make some stuff. I made like a punk rock kind of rock record thing that I always wanted to do since I was like in high school. And I thought about it like every year of my adult years. Like once a year, I'd be like, God dang it. Like I love the Misfits a lot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I always went back to them like a couple times a year. I just listened a bunch and just always want to make a record like that. And so that was my opportunity to make, it's on Spotify. It's called Half a Man. It's like a ode to the Misfits kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I would never have done. I would never have taken the time to do that,
Yeah, that's the interesting part of all this is that you did find a lot of people who you had like these projects that would never probably seen the light of day, never have been able to happen without this time. Like it's the, I guess like with Mike and the Moon Pies, when they put out that Gary Stewart record, that was something that they were kind of working on, kind of not working on, kind of working on. And, the reason why they were able to do it is because the pandemic, that it just kind of fell into that being the next thing for them, and I feel like a lot of times, a lot of artists, they did that. Like, okay, well, I'm going to make that kind of record. I'm going to do this weird, not necessarily weird, but, this pet project, this something I've been, maybe not, that's not for everybody, but, I need to mark it off the list.
Yeah, it gave like oxygen to these little smoldering fires and everybody, you know. All of a sudden, they had enough oxygen to light up. It was super cool. I did that, and then which was a totally just fucking off kind of thing, and then finished this record that's coming out now, Tejano Weekend Volume 2. So like after I kind of messed around, I was like, okay, I need to get back to some like more serious things, and so finished all that out. Spent a lot of time on it, and then also did those summer the 4 songs that came out in the summer.
Yeah.
So I finished like 14 with the punk EP, like 20 tracks or something like that.
Yeah, what I liked so much about what you guys did with those 2-song EPs was, you know, a lot of times during the pandemic, people were like, you know, holding off records that were supposed to come out in 2020. And, you know, all of a sudden there's like so much music out this year where they were just holding back on music, or like maybe they were supposed to go in the studio in 2020, and like basically, you know, a long gap between releases. And I thought, like, for starters, like those 2 EPs were, you know, I loved the hell out of them, but they were also kind of like little nuggets to keep on knowing, like, okay, Volume 2 is coming at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah, we already had Volume 2 like pretty much done, and then started those. He was like, well, yeah, we gotta put something out in the meantime, which I think is what's the there's like a Buddhist thing about you know, guys like burn their fingers off or whatever. What's it called? When something's like doesn't stick around forever, what's it called? What is that thing?
Oh, I have no idea. As far as the fingers,
impermanence.
Mm.
So like the idea of impermanence, like nothing's gonna stick around. Like everything goes away. Like, so it doesn't really matter. Like that's what I felt like. Hey, well, I've always wanted to do this. Let's just put these songs out right now because it doesn't matter. But the record matters a lot. You know, like what everybody, you know, has collectively believe. You have to tour it. You have to, you know, it has to be a big thing. So there's some beautiful things that were very light and fun. And hey, there's some cover songs that we usually do live and people like them. Cool, let's record them. So I felt like there's like less pressure on it, you know?
Yeah, that's one of those things that, especially with like the George Strait covers, when I was listening, I was like, okay, I could go for like another 15, 20 of these. But,
right,
you know, I think like doing that makes it maybe less fun, less like there's so much more pressure in saying, oh, we're going to do a entire record of George Strait covers, where, you know, just like having 2 is enough. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. In saying that though, like what it went into like deciding on that pair versus, you know, the wealth of the George Strait catalog, picking anything else in that book.
So these all came from Dee's. Dee's was making a record at his house, and he had put a cover of Cowboy Rides Away on it, just sort of like normal country rhythms. But instead of I think it's steel guitar is the little lick, he used this just like garage band synthesizer that actually sounded like a lot of like late 80s, early 90s Tejano stuff. And so that, like having that tone shift in there, we were both like, oh my God, we could just do it as a polka and do it like straight up Tejano style. So that's where that one came from, sort of randomly and organically. And then Dee's also called me because Oceanfront had come on the radio, and it's got that weird halftime beat on the original, which we're always on the hunt for, like, can this song be a cumbia? I think about it like twice a day. If I hear something on the radio, I'm like, can this be a cumbia? Could that be a cumbia? And that one worked. And we were listening to it and we're like, oh my God, Oceanfront's like perfect. So we just kind of are constantly on the hunt for, songs that mean a lot to Texans and mean a lot to us. If they fit in the big, just the general style of Tejano Weekend,
Yeah,
which is like things in Texas that aren't ever going to go away.
Right. That's what I've always been so impressed with, as far as like when it comes to the covers that y'all pick, is that on one end they're like the staples, right, of Texas stuff. It's the Live Forever, it's always on my mind, that kind of stuff. And yet it's also one of those things where it's like, how has this not been done before? How is like, and it makes it feel like, even in this, it's such a, specifically with those kind of songs, it's universally Texan, right? It specifically feels Texan. And of course, like Tex-Mex and Tejano is also Texan. And
yeah,
it just like matches perfect in this way of going, there's like still like this cultural sharing, if you will. And it feels like you guys have done, as good a job as any, as far as, still mixing those two worlds.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a semi-conscious endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud that we've sort of created a system that we can see if things like clearly fit or don't fit into it. And that's something that's really cool, of having a band long enough to where you can like kind of have a good gut feeling about bringing songs to the table or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like when there's this clear path that's already been laid by your previous self. So that's a fun situation to be in. Some stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that, you've tried or you thought was going to be like a good crossover, a good,
Yeah.
and it just kind of fell flat.
Yeah, my D ant word cumbia didn't work.
Your what?
D ant word. Man. It's like a doom hip hop band from South Africa. Never mind.
Well, okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, what, I know we talked a little bit about it before, but can you go into a little bit more on like, the transition into Tejano Weekend, as far as being a project that, that was, I guess like out of Sons of Fathers, and then you had Blue Healer, and then into David Beck's Tejano Weekend. Can you talk a little bit about like that transition into diving into this world where, it was you're a fan of it, but then like you felt like you had something to contribute to it?
Yeah. It started like anything else good starts, I think, which is one, totally being obsessed with a whole genre. It's even more than a genre. It's just a whole cultural plane that I felt like I had not tapped into Tejano music in general. And completely getting obsessed with it. And it made me, and it still does, it made me so happy though. And just like, I don't know, I felt like I was 12 years old again, like learning the guitar for the first time, or like learning how to record yourself, or like listening to, a certain band that you'd never heard and getting all obsessed with it. Like I felt like I was a little kid again, which to me is always like, if I can get to feel like I'm 13 or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, Roberto Polito is so sick. Check out this record. And I'm like telling my friends and stuff. Like if that's happening in my body, I gotta like pay attention to it. And so it started just passionately listening to it, and then writing some tunes and just sort of playing around with the rhythms and making cumbias and stuff. And I don't know, it just stuck around long enough to where I felt the urge to put a whole band together for it. I don't know when the switch happened of like making it live. I can't remember, of booking a show for it. Because there was a pretty big gap, because that would have been like July of 2017 or whatever. June, July, August, September, October. Well, maybe not. It was like 4 months, and then we played a show.
Mm-hmm.
From like getting obsessed with it over a summer. Maybe longer than that. I really can't remember, Thomas. I can't remember. But it was a cloudy time. But I don't know. I also moved to Nashville for 6 months during the start of the whole thing, which was a big like. I moved to Nashville and was obsessed with Tejano music, and my friends in Texas kind of didn't even know what I was up to, or didn't understand what I was up to. And then absolutely nobody in Nashville understood what I was doing. I was showing people these songs and stuff, like cumbias and big polkas and synth and stuff, and they're just like, I have no idea how to respond to this, And so the fact that I kept doing it all the way through Nashville, and then I eventually moved back, I think was like I took it out into the wilderness, and it held up. And so I knew it was something that was going to stick around in my life for a long time.
Yeah, that's so interesting right there, because, it seems that if you're like a creative person and you're showing, no matter like what kind of genre it is, if it's good, or if there's something that intrigues you, you would, kind of understand what the other person's doing, regardless if you're a quote unquote Nashville country singer songwriter or an Americana songwriter or something like that. Because, I feel like at the end of the day, I think like a lot of the songs you're doing, I'm sure you could have put that Americana lens on and been fine. But this right here, I feel is like, it's a little bit more intriguing, and I think it's kind of like I said, like it's kind of bridging two, huge staples of Texas culture together, where, I think that like we all kind of have had like these little moments, these little pockets of being introduced to Tejano music or Tex-Mex, or it kind of being on that radio or whatever, going to San Antonio and kind of being introduced even just by walking around the river walk or whatever. And yet like those two worlds don't necessarily always cross paths as far as like the Texas country or whatever we want to call it and Tejano worlds. But every once in a while they do. And then when they do, like it's obviously like some magic. And of course I'm, talking about like Texas Tornadoes or like Doug Somm or Freddie Fender and any of those guys, Joe Ely even.
Yeah. Or like Los Lobos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember you talking about Los Lobos being like a big band as far as like kind of finding that influence as far as, no one really else sounding like them in the Americana time during the 80s.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, I didn't have any of these like, when I started, I didn't have any like aspirations, which sounds bad. I had zero aspirations of like doing anything other than purely like self-indulgent mimicry or whatever. But it turns out that there weren't a lot of people, if anybody, really doing like a straight up Tejano thing, but also doing English, making it accessible to multiple cultures in Texas. And like pretty soon out of the gate, like we had people at shows dancing together, hanging out together, that wouldn't have gone to the same show together. In a different case, if it was a different show, they wouldn't have gone. They wouldn't have been in the same room together, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing. And I think and like I said, there was no planning on this. There was no like, I'm going to make a crossover thing and there was nothing premeditated at all. It was just a passion project, and it still is. But it's had these really beautiful, fruitful after effects that I have to pinch myself sometimes and take a look at it and go, I don't know when the last time someone sang a song in Spanish in this room, or whatever. Like, and I'm a weird white guy doing it, so it's not the same, but it's like, I don't know. It feels good to see crowds from different cultures all hanging out together. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I also think like you have to take those moments. It's so easy to just kind of brush off any kind of, any kind of accomplishment, any kind of like anything like that as just, oh, it's cool. But like, I think that's what we have to do is like be in the moment, in the present moment, and kind of go, oh, you know what? Like this is actually really cool. These different kinds of people coming into a room and experiencing the same thing that they may not otherwise done. One of the things that you mentioned a minute ago that I wanted to go back on was, you're talking about being obsessed with Tejano, feeling like you're like 13 again, right? You're essentially kind of like learning all this stuff. Did you feel that like, for one, like, that it took a amount of time to not necessarily shake the mimicry, but like, find your own voice within that world? Or because you have been a songwriter for a while, that like it was still very easy to sing from your own perspective, to write from your own perspective, and or was it a little bit more of like, just kind of since it was so fresh and new, still kind of being really impressioned or more impressionable? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there's two factors in it, and the first factor is like, just like I hadn't studied anything since high school. I went to college, but I didn't really do anything in college. I barely did anything. I hadn't studied anything or like had to learn anything new until I started working on the Tejano stuff. At the very beginning, I had to like critically break down what the bass lines are doing, what are the drums doing, researching, looking at videos. Like, I had to like completely break down a music style because I wanted to recreate it so bad. But I had to learn, this is what the guitar does, this is what the bajo does, these are the kick drum patterns, these are the percussion patterns. And like, I hadn't learned anything new in so long that it was exhilarating to do that. So, and then playing it with the right feel, and finding all the players that could pick up on it, that were good listeners, that could tap into the same feel and everything. So I think so there's like some fundamental musical things that I had to sit down and go note for note and learn things. And that was really, really cool, especially to do that in my late 20s, early 30s, like to learn something, which sounds stupid, but I don't know if I would, like, I don't know anything else that I can tell you that I've like learned how to do anything new.
Right.
Which is kind of sad, but I think probably a lot of adults, or young adults or whatever, I don't, unless you're like training for a job or something, or I know there's a lot of people that have a bunch of activities and I'm going to get into pottery, and then they learn all about pottery. But most of my friends, we have like 3 things we do and then we don't change it. Anyway, so there was that, which I had to learn. And then also the band, I feel like like the first record is like super fun, but like we don't know what we're doing on it. And the second record, I feel like everybody has a way better grasp musically, all the musicians, on what our goals are, and we're way more comfortable. And so I really think the second record, Volume 2, is a really good example of us just sort of getting in the groove. And then on the other side of coin, the second part of all this, the songwriting for me, I think has stayed exactly the same, which is really cool. And that's not it. None of these are intentional, but I just ended up writing the same type of songs that I always do. They just happen to be over polka or cumbia or whatever. So like, it's the same. I feel like my voice was there from the first song we wrote. And that never changed.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, that's really interesting right there, as far as, you know, kind of that you're able to like maintain that same lane, that same direction, right? Without feeling like you had to change your writing style. But then also at the same time, like, you know, being humble enough to know that like I have to go and break down these songs to actually do anything justice. Because, you know, if you don't do that, if you didn't do that, it would feel like you're, you know, just kind of, I don't know, like trying to, you know, I guess take, what's the word I'm looking for? You're like, if you, I guess like just kind of, mailing it in, right? Or like trying to like, appropriate, something.
Yeah.
But like, it sounds like you actually, and that's something that's so interesting right there too, is like, as you said, you know, a lot of times when you're an adult, you kind of stop learning, or you feel like you need to stop, or you don't have to learn, I guess is probably the better way. And yet, you know, I think that's like also so amazing is when you do have those moments of like, oh, you know what? There's still so much more that I can actually try and do. I don't have to like be limited by this earlier version of myself.
Yeah. And it, I think sometimes, it takes a new energy new to you, to sort of push you over the edge to start working on stuff. You have to want to work on stuff. That's why I did shitty in college. I didn't care. And it sucked. And I wish I'd gone back, because people, you know, I wasted a whole thing that people strive for. And I feel really bad about it. But, you know, you gotta, if you have that drive, learning something new is just so good for your brain. And that's all I got on that.
Yeah. Well, you said like this record right here, you felt like you guys knew what you were doing more. Like, right? There had to be like this feeling of, oh, you know, what we're doing is intentional, not necessarily like we're just falling into having a fun record. I'm assuming that had to like just come with just the repetition of playing live a whole lot, and, you know, doing obviously the studying, if you will. But was it like, I'm sure like there wasn't necessarily one moment or anything like that, not like a snap of a finger or anything like that. There wasn't like probably an aha moment, but was there a moment where you kind of like, at least when you were recording volume 2, that you kind of realized, okay, this is different than volume 1. This is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more progressive in that step, in that direction?
Not when we were recording it. We just went in with a general confidence and more of like knowing, like a we could see the end picture and we knew how to get there quick.
Okay. Yeah.
We knew what we wanted. We knew what we wanted stuff to sound like. We knew how we wanted to feel. So we just went in like with less resistance and more a better understanding of where we wanted to end up.
Yeah.
But we did have a breakthrough moment. It's a little bit different, but there was this, we played the San Antonio Rodeo. We got a really awesome gig at the San Antonio Rodeo in one of those big tents. And which the San Antonio Rodeo is about as good as a gig for a Tejano weekend as we could possibly get. Just, it's in San Antonio. It's in the Tejano Mecca. It's also an intimidating show for us. And so we went in half excited, half like God, I hope this works. And we started playing some Ramon Ayala stuff, and we had like probably 50 to 100 people dancing. It just like felt like the whole tent was dancing, and everybody was like having a good time, and we felt like accepted. And so that specific moment, the 3.5 minutes for that song, to me was like, okay, this is gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah.
This will work. We can do it. We can do it and not feel like guilty about what we're doing, or culturally or whatever. Like we can, like, people, from my point of view, it felt like everybody was like, okay, y'all are cool. We got like the nod to be like, all right, it's nice, we'll dance, because if you don't like it, they're not going to dance to it. So it's like that. To me, it was like we got the nod from San Antonio, the people of San Antonio.
Right.
So that was a breakthrough. That was like a pinpoint. I remember the day. It's on a calendar kind of thing.
Yeah. See, that's must be like obviously like a little bit of the approval, right? The nod. I know the head nod you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
a big driving force too. For us is for the Hispanic culture to be like, okay, it's good. Because it's it all comes from them. I mean, it's a Texan deal or whatever, but we didn't have much to do with it.
Yeah.
White folks. So to me, it's, I don't know, just honoring someone else's culture because you love it and because it brings you so much joy, and so when you get a head nod from somebody about it, that is a really cool thing, because it's you're sharing this world together. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right. Well, not to necessarily even take it this way, as far as, I don't know if you've had any of these moments, but have you felt any resistance, even like, or reservations from yourself, as far as, are we doing this justice, or, are people kind of, has there been any crowds who are kind of, resistant to y'all doing Tejano music?
We've had one lady at the Blue Bonnet Palace in Selma come up to the stage and yell at us that we shouldn't play this music. That's one lady out of, I don't know, we've been playing for almost 4 years now. So, if people don't like it, they're not telling me about it. But, they're not vocal about it to me. But, because I'm sure people don't like it. Some people don't like it. But, no, I mean, other than that, it's just generally been really well received. And I doubt myself. I doubt everything I do, quite a bit. I think that's what keeps me in check on things. But I personally know it's coming from a good place, and we work really, really hard on it to make it as good as possible. And it's honoring what the Hispanic culture has created, and it's just shining a light on that, and wanting, and the way I honor stuff is to try to recreate it and try to make more of it or whatever. So
yeah, well, I think
that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that, like, more than anything else, this is an opportunity for a lot of people to use you guys as a gateway to discover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave us behind. There's much better. There's much better things. Yeah. If we can open the doors to someone all of a sudden becoming obsessed with Roberto Pulido, then I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was wondering is, do you feel like let's go back to that whole like 13, you feeling like 13, like this new world discovering, right? Being invigorated. Um, did it feel like you ended up like, having a hot streak as far as writing? Did it feel like this was new when it came to the writing, or did it always kind of feel like the same kind of process? Did you never feel like, that like you didn't have something to write about, or was it something like, some water to a seed, because this was something fresh and new that you felt like, okay, I'm on a hot streak of writing because it's kind of been invigorating in that way?
It was absolutely a hot streak. Um, and it was, taking a lot of all these skills I've been working on my whole life with making one little alteration on it. And then that's all it took for it to feel fresh, for everything to feel fresh. Like I'd never written a song before, and I'm super excited about it. One thing that was different about it, which was really exciting, was so Tejano music is, our show is largely dance based. We're trying to get people to dance. And so I'd never done this in any other band or anything, but I go, we need, like, I'd listen to 107.5, which is a really badass radio station in San Antonio, KXTN. And like, we'd be playing these shows and we didn't have enough for 90 minutes. So we'd like stretch stuff out. And then I'd hear a song on the radio and be like, this tempo of a tune, like this tempo of a cumbia is exactly what we need in our set. We need this like for a couple weeks from now. We need more songs. Literally, we need more songs to play. And I'd be like, I want to write a song that's this tempo. So I would write down the BPM. Okay, it's 115 BPM or whatever. And then I'd go home and make a cumbia with samples and stuff. And I'd make in Pro Tools, and I'd make a cumbia at 115, just the drums, because I knew that was going to cultivate the correct like energy that I was looking for. And then I would write a song on top of that, on top of those loops. So like I'd never, with other music I made, I never like listened to some freaking whatever Fleet Foxes song and be like, that's the kind of song we need, because it's all over the place. It's not dance based,
Right.
If I'd been making other types of music, maybe I would have felt that or something. But a lot of these tunes started with the rhythm and started with these like, we need a polka that feels like this fast, and we need it to be this energy. And then I had a little of these like guidelines that I'd set up for myself, which it can be daunting going to have a hall pass to do absolutely whatever you want to. But write a song, it can be anything. You can write on piano, guitar, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're like, oh God, you can really just like shut down with endless opportunity. You can just shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what, you want to write a book about the history of Lubbock? Oh my God, what time period? I don't know. About people, about buildings? It's like, no, music, 2015, 2017. Oh, okay, I can do that. Like, it just gave me some guidelines with writing. So
yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's sometimes like when I guess what I've framed it as is like, once you kind of set up some parameters, once you like say, I'm only painting inside this box, painting inside the lines, somehow like it's like the outside the box approach to it, because like you can focus. It's the same thing that I've talked about as far as when you open, you're like, oh, I want to watch a movie or a show on Netflix, and then you just end up scrolling because like it's just too much, you're overwhelmed by it. I feel like Netflix for me would be if they just offered 10 shows at a time or something like that, because I could actually do it. But like those parameters are sometimes necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. and in having a specific or not even a specific end goal, but a general like end goal of, I want to write a song that makes people do this.
Right.
Okay. We know it's like algebra. We know the answer, and we know it's a cumbia, but we don't know what X and Y are. We know like a couple of these things. We just got to figure out what those are.
Yeah.
We know what the answer is. We know what it equals. It equals a badass song. We know it's got to have this, and we know it's this tempo.
Yeah, I almost like apply it to having like another specific kind of tool in the toolbox, like because as you said, like a lot of this music is dance based. You're wanting dancers, and if you're playing the exact same thing 90 minutes, people get tired of doing that one specific thing. They want to hear some diversity, a little bit of variety. Yeah. And whenever you have that a little bit different, when you're able to pull out like that different song, and it just changes the momentum of the mood of the room, and then you're able to obviously go back into whatever else. It's the different brush.
Yep.
One of the things. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also like live music based.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like a visceral, immediate reaction that you want out of people. So like, I wasn't sitting in my bedroom thinking about lost love and blah blah blah,
Right.
And whatever cool minor 7 chord I could play on the guitar. It's like, God dang it! I wish these people, I wish they would have danced. I wish we had this song to play so we could, at that moment of the show, you go home and go, fuck, we need that. It's like very immediate. Like, that's what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and this is going to be like the obviously cliche kind of thing, but in the movie Selena, Selena's dad and his band, they were trying to do like doo-wop and stuff, right? And there's that scene in the very beginning where they're trying to sing Blue Moon, and like they're being booed off stage because they're wanting to dance. And there's that one lady who says, "We want to dance," and like that's
right.
exactly. If you had to like just watch like a 5-second clip, that's what it is. It's that dance culture, that live music aspect of it all.
Yeah, that's a bad feeling too. If you've ever been in that position, to go, like, this crowd is fucking hyped up, and like we're at blue light, and everybody wants to party, and we have a really slow song next. And we have to do it because we don't have enough songs. That's not a fun place to be. That's when you figure out some cover songs real quick too.
Yeah.
I know this one. Do it. It's in G.
No, absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
So that'll force you into some things. So positively.
One of the things I need to say before I forget it, because I was thinking about it, was obviously you guys do Live Forever, Billy Joe Shaver.
Yeah.
And I only interviewed Billy Joe one time, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because during this conversation, and obviously talking with him on doing an interview, as I've kind of said, like we talked for about, I don't know, like 45 minutes, and I had like 5 minutes of that conversation. It was just like him talking basically the whole time, which was exactly what I wanted it to be. But one of the things he talked about was how when he was driving anywhere, all he listened to was the radio on Spanish stations.
Really?
Yeah. And so like when you said like you were, listening to the radio and going, oh, I need a little bit of this or a little bit of that. I think it's like this weird, it's the serendipity of that song was destined to be a Tejano song at some point.
That's awesome. I bet he would have liked it.
Yeah.
we never crossed paths, or I hope he would, but if you like, if that's what he listened to. I got to meet Billy Joe when I was like 18. I was playing with a guy named Rodney Hayden. I was playing bass, and we opened for Billy Joe at Sam's Town Point. And I had got to the show before our sound check. So it's like early afternoon. It's like 3 or mid afternoon. It's like 3 or 4 o'clock. And there's really nobody else there at Sam's. I drove myself down there, and I went in the green room, and Billy Joe's just sitting in the green room by himself. And we talked for about an hour, and all he wanted, and I was 18, so I was a young guy, and he was just asking like about why I was playing music, and just encouraged me to do it, and was telling me, all about how it's super hard and blah blah blah. But if you feel like you want to do it, then you got to do it, And it was a super powerful in the moment, and then even more powerful when I sort of got older and realized like how influential Billy Joe Shaver was on country music and everything. He also told me a very graphic story about how life is like a watermelon, and something about having sex with a watermelon. And I can't recall exactly, but it was something about fucking a watermelon, and I can't remember what.
Yeah.
They like get the juice out of life or something. I don't know what it was, but he told, I don't know, it was a parable about a watermelon, but that's all. It was very cool. It was like I knew it was special at the moment, so
yeah.
but not fully understanding why it was so special. But.
No, I know what you mean. It was like I said, when I talked to him, it was also one of those things where I had gotten the interview set up and we were going to talk on the phone. And like I said, we talked for about an hour. And the next day, his manager or publicist or whoever it was called me or emailed me saying that did we need to like reschedule the interview because I asked Billy Joe about it and he said that he doesn't remember talking to anyone. And I was like,
oh my God.
Well, we were on the phone for like an hour or so. I mean, and it went well. Like, it was really, really great. But it was also one of those little funny things was that during this interview, there was like 3 or 4 or 5 times where he said something to the effect of, I may be like, I can't remember how old he was at the time, but I may be like 72 years old, but I'll still whoop a man's ass if need be. And I was just like, man, like, I didn't even, am I like putting on, am I like pushing these like weird vibes out there that like I want to fight you or something? Or do you just need that to be known? And of course, this is already after he shot a guy, but I think everyone knows that you're tough, Billy Joe. You don't have to. But he probably said it like 3 or 4 times. Like, I may be blah, blah years old, but, I'll still whoop a man's ass if need be.
Yeah.
So.
He's a wild guy.
Yeah.
I just remember him being super sweet and like encouraging and was excited about music.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. That's one of those things where I remember him saying, and I know he said it a bunch of times to different people, but it was like, God put me on earth to write songs. And like, that's what I'm going to do. And that's something really just kind of like, inspiring about that, maybe you're not going to be singing those songs in front of the biggest crowd or whatever, or get your songs cut by Waylon Jennings or whoever. But like, it was always it's in his DNA to write, or was to write, and that's really, really kind of like you kind of said right there too, inspiring, pushes you to think like, oh, you know what, if I can do it too.
Yeah, it's also I know that I don't know if you know this, but him and Norm Macdonald are really were buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see those? He was on the podcast, Norm Macdonald podcast, and then on the TV show.
Yeah.
So he did two different things on that. And I feel like, and Norm just passed away, which is wild. But I feel like they also related to each other too a lot, like just die hard guys that were devoted to their craft, who had other friends that like were super successful. Waylon Jennings, sort of, which would be like Norm Macdonald's, like Adam Sandler was his buddy too. You know, the guys that are like way more popular, that we're all in the same group, kind of getting started and stuff. And I imposing that on their friendship, but it seems to me like they both kind of had this sort of on the fringe thing, but like very pure artists, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think like they, that's spot on all what you said there. The purity of it all, you know, the pursuit of writing a song for Billy Joe was like the same pursuit that Norm had for writing jokes, like the pursuit of writing that perfect joke. And,
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned the TV show. I do have like this one screenshot on my phone that I've had forever since it came out, and that is of Billy Joe on the show, and he's reading a card that Norm had told him to read, and it says, "Bad news for e-cigarette users. You look fucking stupid." And
yeah,
I've just always had that, like, since I don't know, remember when he came on the show, but yeah.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I love those. It's just bizarre to me too that I don't know how, you know, Norm found Billy Joe Shaver and then how they became buddies. It's just so like they seem like from two different planets, but they're really very similar people, I think.
yeah, that is interesting too. The how do these worlds pass or cross? You know,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, you know, like that Norm, it like reached out to Billy Joe about it. You know, I can see like Norm being like a, you know, a quote unquote outlaw country fan, and then like looking through the liner notes and yeah.
Norm was really big into Merle Haggard, Willie, Billy Joe, so he loved all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah,
I'm sure I don't know how long their friendship went back before that, but I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to touch on before ending on any of this, but was last time we talked, something that you had talked about was about like how when you came to writing, like you had like specific notebooks to write in, and you wrote in them, and you had like the volumes of your songwriting over since you've started writing, and how like that was kind of a, you know, as far as like you, I think like what you're talking about was like how you're kind of disorganized in a lot of things, but when it came to like writing down lyrics and writing, you had like a certain kind of notebook, and that's like the kind of like that sacred ground, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah, can you expand on that? Because I find that really, really fascinating as far as just like the creative side, and I don't know, I kind of agree. Like sometimes you have to have like those spaces.
I think it's to me it does feel sacred, and it's always been like the most important thing in my life since I sort of started when I was about 12 or 13. It took over everything, for better or worse. Some things got left to, you know, like my schooling didn't do great after I discovered how to record music. I just spend all day doing it and no time doing anything else. But the books have been, well, music's been the most consistent thing in my life as a general thing, but writing and recording and having bands it's not stopped since I was in junior high. And the books are just like a physical manifestation of the consistency of that. And I remember I bought the first one. There was a place called Colloquium in San Marcos, which is like the university bookstore. And I went and bought the like 8.5 by 11 sketch books, like sketch pad books, like the black bound ones. And they don't have any lines on them or anything, so it's just total freedom. And I bought one in 2007, and every few months would fill it up and then go back to the same Colloquium and go get one off the shelf. And it was very like, what's the word? Sacred was close, but it's very like ceremonial.
But yeah, like
you go, you get one, you write the date in it, you know, and you start a whole new chapter of songs. And so I went and did that at the Colloquium for a long time. And then the Colloquium shut down, and now I have to go to Hobby Lobby, which is way less cool.
Yeah. It's significantly less like of a ritual, you know.
Yeah, it's still a ritual. It still means the same, and I still really enjoy doing it. But yeah, the Colloquium was cool, and now I had to go to Hobby Lobby. I ordered one off the internet, and that was the least cool. So at least I found somewhere where they sell them like physically, because it's like it's very self-important or whatever. But there's like that. There's the book. This one that was sitting on the shelf that had ended up on the very front of the shelf. Like that's the one. It was like predestined to be mine, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I also just think it's such a, you know, we have all these like romanticized ideas of how the songwriter finds a song and how he or she puts them to paper and records them. And, you know, you hear these wild stories of, oh, you know, I wrote it on the back of a pizza box or, you know, receipt or something like that. And of course that does happen every once in a while, but you know, I love like the image of like the songwriter, you know, having a certain book or journal that like that's where they go. And you know, kind of having like where again, not necessarily like the parameters, but you know, having something that kind of creates the moment and the mood. It's a lot more romanticized than, you know, you typing out on a computer lyrics or something.
God, in the past like 7 years, 10 years now, and sorry for if anybody reads this or whatever that I work with, but they'll write all their lyrics on their phone and then they're recording the vocals. I'm like recording because I produce stuff for other people, and they'll be recording the vocals and they have their phone in front of them, and I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
Like the phone is such an evil, distracting thing when it comes to art.
Yeah. No,
it's like, please don't record this song with your phone in your hand. And I realize some people don't care at all. It's completely practical, whatever. Like that's my own like little hang up on it. But
yeah, no, I hear what you mean. I mean, whenever, just to apply it for what I do, like obviously the phone is very practical to take down notes and stuff like that. But, you know, when I'm writing at the computer or something like that, if I come up on like a snag or something where I just can't, you know, get around it or anything like that, I always just like write. Put the pen in your paper in your hand and like write that way. And it feels like it feels a little bit more natural, of course, and it just feels like something sometimes more often than not, like there's, you know, it gets out better that way for me. Do you have a specific pen that you go to? I can't remember. If
I like the Sharpie. What do they call them? Let's see if I have one. I actually don't think I have one in my studio right now. Oh, here's one. Sharpie Ultra Fine Point. The like metal tip Sharpies.
Yeah.
That's it.
So,
That's all you need.
yeah, I'm a big guy when it comes to asking about like what pin use, because I think like it may sound boring for like 95% of the people listening, but that 5% who know what we're talking about, like when it matters, like when it matters what kind of pen you use or whatever, you know, like it's a little insight. What I use is a Uniball Signo 207, specifically like if it's the micro pin.
Let me see.
Like, it's a little bit better.
Uniball Signo 307? 207.
207. Yeah. And there's there's two different kinds. There's like the regular kind and there's like the micro. And the micro, I just like the little more refined point.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyways.
I know how to get you for Christmas.
Oh, well, there you go, man. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, David, it's been a pleasure talking to you this afternoon on this new record. It's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah. I should get excited about it. I keep forgetting. I have so much stuff to do that I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And Deez was just, we'll wrap up in here in a second. But Deez was just leaving, and we go through so many ups and downs. And just like, did we do this right? Did we try hard enough? I feel like we didn't try hard enough at all. No, we did everything we can. Like we just go through like ups and downs and stuff so much. And then he was listening to it and was like, nobody's even heard this yet. Like, the record's so cool. These songs are good. Like, no one even knows what this is yet. We just go through it. You know what I mean?
Okay, that is it for episode 204 with David Beck. Be sure to check out David Beck's Tejano Weekend and their newest album, Volume 2. Stop on over at the merch store, order The Lubbock Way, my debut book. It's out now. Visit our presenting partners over at Blue Light Live and Desert Door. And yeah, I'll see y'all later for another episode.